Basically, my friend picked us all up. We got in his car, drove somewhere, bought some cans, went to the first spot, threw a couple of throw-ups up, across the street, and basically, a police officer went by with a spray paint can in my hand, and that was basically it. We were initially arrested for possession, and when the police officer found what we were doing in the area, it was for graffiti.
After he found that we had cans and markers on us, they went out searching for the stuff that we have done that night. That's what we initially got arrested for.
We had about 20 cans on us, so it was a bit obvious. When he got out of his car, he drew his gun and told me not to move. Very aggressive.
We got put in the cop car, and we got sent. We were with our other friend, and he told the police officer other places and like where we tagged that night. He showed him all the places, and after that, we got sent to the waiting cell in the local jail, and we sat there for about probably 5 hours.
We just sat in there, couldn't really get a hold of our parents, tell them what happened. It was well past midnight, and our parents didn't even know where we were at the time.
That worst case scenario is getting a call at 3 o'clock in the morning and your son's not home. I was in denial. I said, he's home, he's in bed. No, he wasn't there. It was scary. I couldn't talk to him on the phone. The police didn't call us. They finally allowed him Sunday afternoon to call. Tuesday morning, that's when I saw him next. He got arrested Saturday night, not till Tuesday morning, and then Wednesday he went to jail. To sit there in the courtroom and see him behind bars and not being able to talk to him and then taking him away. It was hard. It was hard on the family. I can't trust him. He knows it. He has a car. He looks at me and says, "Can I drive?" I said, "No. I'll take you to school. I'll pick you up." As 18, I wanted to have him have all the responsibilities that there was. You got work, you got school, you have a future. Now it's like he's back in kindergarten again. I mean, he can't leave the house at night. He can't go out. And he has to ask me questions. Before, he would able to run freely, and I respected that because I would want that in return. Now it's total non-trust.
Alex and I were put into a cell for the next couple days. The judge basically told us right off the bat that it was needed for jail time. Just a waste of his time as well.
He told us that our bail was $50,000 because he didn't want us to get out of jail. He wanted us to experience what it was like to go to jail. He'd tell people, like all the other inmates, what they're in there for, and they would just like treat you like dirt. They'd think that it's kind of stupid that you're in there for that.
When we were convicted, we originally had a felony charge and did actually have to serve 60 to 30 days in county jail. Thanks to the lawyers that we had, it was pushed down to 3 years probation and 400 hours of community service. My job I lost right off the bat. My family probably hurt them a lot. It's definitely a scar.
My parents distrust me now.
I go in his room, I look to see if he has cans of paint or ink pens or the black books, and I look for those things now. I didn't want to look. I don't want to be searching through his things, but you know, right now I don't trust him. I think he lies. And those things are going to take a long time to heal because he was able to get away with it and I was unaware of it. When I heard that my son was a felon, I just said, you know, your life is gone. Nobody wants you. To tell your children, to tell them what is the consequences of being a felon or a misdemeanor. It's like you tell them, don't drink and drive. Call me if you're going to drink. You tell them, you know, don't do drugs. But do you ever say don't tag? A lot of people don't know what tagging is. They don't know that it could be, I had no idea that it was a felony.
Before we were arrested, the most we had thought that would happen was a ticket, slap on our wrist, a big warning, just take our names down and we'll be in our beds that night.
Yeah, I wasn't even worried when I was in the cop car. I thought we were just gonna go sent back to home, but
he booked us.
What a surprise.
having a child go to jail is something that you just don't want to tell your friends. Every friend that I have right now, their future and their children is college and work and so positive. And then I look at mine and says, why? I talk to counselors at school and they can't answer questions. We're embarrassed to be in this city. We moved here to Santa Clarita because it was clean. We didn't see graffiti. We knew it was a safe environment for our children to grow up in. And driving around, if I were to see graffiti, I don't know if I would think that there's gangs, there's violence here. We're just going to go back and work things out and struggle with him going to community service. I'm waking up at 4:30 in the morning to take him to community service. He's lost all his privileges. He's not driving. The only thing he has to look forward to is going to school, and that's it. So it really hurt the family. My other two children, they don't want to tell people about what their brother does. They were proud of their brother. Now it's like, I don't want to talk about him. He's almost like he doesn't want to be existed in the family. I work in the community. I'm embarrassed to say that my son did destruction. It's not really talked about. We kind of keep this to ourselves. It's too embarrassing to talk about. I don't know how other people would treat me if they knew that. Would they spit on me or how? I don't know.
Tagging definitely isn't worth it. It's not worth going to jail, going to county jail for putting your name up on a wall. But I don't know. Just think twice when you're about to do it.
It's just not worth it. It's basically changed my life completely around. Definitely not the same person out of jail.
As I think you can agree, that is a very powerful piece, especially the last slide, the young man, when it says that he could not go away to college. I think, we've been working a couple of years on this really hard, and to get the felony convictions really is important, and the judges really do not like tigers. And so, as you can see, even for a couple of young men who thought it was a lark, it really is not. And so that is the message that we get out to the high schools, and we're going to junior highs and once the schools go back, to really get the message out that it is not a game. It is very serious, and we take it seriously in Santa Clarita.
Very powerful message. Yeah, thank you. Comments?
I have a question. Has the program been intact long enough to know? Do any of them go back to it, or it's not a long enough program yet to tell, or does it really turn their lives around?
It depends. Some of them really turns their lives around, like the two young men that you saw there. There are some that it may take longer. There's some that's hard to track too, because like they're on probation for 3 or 5 years because it's a felon. It depends. The sentences are not light. But there are some habitual ones that, yes, that we do know, especially if they get put into prison, we know when they're coming back out. And so we know what we need to do. And that's part of the program, having the intelligence around the whole aspect of the graffiti.
Anything else? Okay. Dwayne.
I have a question. There's, you're reporting 100% conviction rate for the people that are brought in for this. What about restitution? How has the restitution been from these people that do this in proportion to the amount of money that it costs this city to go around and clean this stuff up?
The cost for the city is right now about $600,000 a year. The restitution that we got last year was just under $4,000. This year to date, we've got over $4,000. But that's only what we have received. We're currently trying to research what restitution was awarded to the city as opposed to what we have actually received. Those are two different figures.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're working with the courts right now to see if we can get those figures and see if in the future if those figures can come automatically to us so that we can see what the potential is.
Yeah, because I've been through this in the past personally, and if there is no teeth in the sentencing given, as far as restitution is concerned, we keep kicking out the money to fix it, and they keep getting fined for busting it up, but they don't have to pay it, and nobody ever checks back. So that is an important thing to have done, is to make sure that when those people are ordered to pay a certain amount of restitution, that it actually gets paid.
That's one of the advantages of our tracking system that we have, that we can make almost every case into a felony case because we do not arrest people on the first time they tag, but we keep track of the number of taggings that they do, the locations, the time it takes us to remove it. So by the time it goes to court, we have a really watertight case on that person. And so that helps too in exactly what you're saying. It allows the judge to have the teeth that he wants to have. Yeah.
Thanks, Adele.
Thanks.
Ed? Oh.
Good news is, oh, there you go. The good news is that I think that our program is working with Cynthia out there and talking to the different groups, because what I think I'm seeing, and what you probably already know, Adele, a lot of these taggers are over the age of 18. Those are the ones that do the most damage. And I think what you're seeing is the program is starting to hit the younger kids and starting to hit the high schoolers and the junior high schoolers, and they're starting to think about it. When they see this video, they're starting to think about it. But I know some of the prolific taggers in the community, from what I've told, and I've been doing a lot of, when I get a chance, when I find a tagger or an ex-tagger, I talk to them. What I'm told is they are actually over the age of 18, 24, 18, 25. But I think that our program is working. One of the tagging groups, they're getting very sophisticated now. They have different chapters. There's a Valencia chapter, there's a Canyon Country chapter, and Saugus chapter. So they're getting more organized, the older kids. So thanks to this program, I think we're keeping the younger kids out of it, which was the reason why we did put this program together, is because we want to talk to the younger kids, and by the time they get older, they won't be engaged in this kind of activity. One of the things that I was thinking about is when we have a situation where people are drunk driving or involved with drugs, in addition to the legal aspects of it, there is some kind of program that we send them to for rehabilitation. And I know from talking to some of these kids think this is more of an addiction, just like taking drugs, because it's exciting to them. It's an adrenaline flow. When they go out at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning to do these things, it's exciting to them. So I'm wondering if there's a way that we can develop some kind of post-program, an education program, maybe conducted by a local psychologist or therapist, to bring these kids in and put them in some kind of program, and then we can probably cut down on the reoccurrence of these kinds of things, especially with the younger kids. I think the video is great, but I think maybe if we can come up with something like that, it would be great to help out.
We'll look into that.
Yeah, another thing is, Rick, I've talked to Rick several times about the billboards, especially the ones on Soledad Canyon Road. Do you think it's possible we can get the city council to pass an ordinance on, I know these billboards are leased, and they're due to come down at some point, But I sure like to see them remove the ladders off those billboards because there's such easy access to them, especially the couple on the Soledad Canyon Road. The kids just get up on top of the building, just go right up the ladder and right there on top of the billboard. Is it possible that we can get some kind of control on that?
Subsequent to our phone conversations, we turned this over to code enforcement, and in the planning department, community development is currently doing what they call a community assessment of the billboards, because there's a variety of issues that relate to the billboards. It's not just the tagging. You may remember Commissioner Longshore was concerned about the oversizing of the billboards, where they would go up to an existing platform and double or triple the size of the square footage of using the existing platform without permits. Community preservation is currently engaged in actually going back through historical records that we have to look at a billboard, see how it's been resized, and then they're contacting the individual billboard communities to either bring them back down to size or to do such things as removing the ladders. So we have asked those billboard companies to remove the ladders because they don't use them anymore. They use lift trucks to put up the new advertising that they have. So that is in process. Unfortunately, it's a slow process, and these are large multinational corporations that don't respond quickly. I just thought it might be worth a quick note. If any of you have the opportunity tonight on your way home and feel like driving down what was San Fernando Road and is now Railroad Avenue, you'll see a recent success on the part of community preservation and community development, but all of the railroad cars being repaired are gone, save one. They're all gone. Did you notice that tonight?
Yeah, and it didn't register until you said that.
Well, to make a long story short, that's right-of-way that the Metropolitan Transit Authority has leased to private businesses over the years, and community preservation went through the effort of checking to see how many of those businesses had ever gone through the city's planning process to get approvals to conduct a business there. It's one thing to lease the land, it's another thing to make sure it has all of the proper permits to operate. And we were able to remove probably 2/3 of those businesses in that right-of-way over a period of time. One of those was the train cleanup or the train restoration operation. And through a series of negotiations, eventually a date was agreed to for those trains to find a new home. And they found a new home.
Do we know where?
I don't, I'm sorry. I just was driving down the street today and went,
I like those trains. That was part of Railroad Avenue.
We can send them to your house with Dan's kids.
Well, no, not with graffiti on them, just, you know.
Okay, thanks, Rick, for that. Another last comment is that I've noticed that the taggers tend to, they like certain walls in the community. There's ones that they constantly like to paint their stuff on. And I know that technology today allows us to put mobile video systems in and to look at certain areas. I know we had talked about this before when we first talking about coming out with a graffiti program. But is it possible, and I think it probably cost effective when you look at $600,000 a year we're paying a video system that is mobile. And I know we've done this with the cars. In the past, we had cars, but I think the kids caught on to that. But to look at certain walls, and I think by working with the graffiti guys like Nico and Christy, that we can identify those areas that are constantly hit every weekend and have video surveillance on those walls. And I think they can probably, if you look at your GPS system, you can tell which ones are constantly hit. So it's not that much of a stress to get a video system that's mobile, that even to the point where they can be monitored.
Commissioner Red, we're aware of the video systems, and there are constantly new systems being developed throughout the community, even to the point of some very innovative ones. You may have read recently of a business owner in Orange County who tied a tripwire to his sprinkler system, so as soon as the wall got hit, the water came on and they got soaked. We're constantly monitoring those. We did ask for video surveillance equipment in this year's budget, in addition to additional hours to remove graffiti. And sometimes push comes to shove, and we needed the hours for removal, and the cameras came second. We will continue to look for funding opportunities, either grants or through the general fund, to augment our surveillance efforts. But sometimes we have to prioritize what we really need in terms to get it down versus some of the, I don't want to call them toys. I will tell you the surveillance cameras that we do employ that are hidden have been effective. We continue to employ them. So those of you who are watching at 9 o'clock on Monday morning, we are watching in those places.
Thank you, Rick, again. But I just want to commend our graffiti staff and all those guys out there working and removing the graffiti. They are actually wonderful. I mean, they get it off like right now. I have not seen, except for the weekends, I have not seen them go a day with graffiti being on the walls in my area. So, Adele, they're doing a great job out there, and I don't want to forget Christine also. She's doing a great job on the phones too. So, tell them. Give them my thanks, and I'm sure the commission joins with me in thanking them also.
Great, thank you, and ditto for the incredible program that you've put together and have implemented. As we know, that the program that you've put together and that's out there is held up as as a star, as we know from our parks recreation. I'm losing it tonight, folks. I think my drugs are kicking in. Awards. the awards thing that we did. And this DVD, thank you so much for bringing it tonight and sharing it with all of us. It's such a powerful tool, and so glad to see that it's going down to the lower levels within our school system. It's a great educational tool. I love the way that you did it, not only in terms of showing the emotional impact as to what it can do to families, but then also what the individual impact is to individuals. As you said, it's it's like, well, I went out to do this as a lark because it's kind of a fun, exciting kind of thing to do, and it's like, yeah, so what, I get caught, I'll get my hand slapped, and there we go. But I can really see a huge impact that this does have. One question that I did have is, as we're seeing more arrests for graffiti, and I'm curious in looking at some of those statistics. What meaning do you make of those increased numbers in terms of the arrests? And what I mean by that is does it mean that we have more graffiti? Or does it mean that we're doing a better job, with our sheriff's department of being out there, being even more active? And what meaning do you make of that?
I think the increase in arrests is based on our programs and the intelligence and the collaborations with us all working together, and that we are patient, that we monitor, that we track, and then when we have our evidence, we know that we can arrest the taggers. Curiously enough, the number of calls have really gone down. So, and this was always our goal, because it's not, graffiti out there is not directly related to the number of calls on the hotline, or arrests are not related.
Say that again?
Arrests are not related to the number of calls that we get on the hotline. In 2007, we had a total of 8,584 calls. That was for the year. Well, based on our fiscal year. In this last fiscal year, we've had 4,829 calls. So we are not getting anywhere like the number of calls that we had before. I think a lot of that is a lot of the taggers know that if they do tag on the thoroughfare, like Commissioner Red said, it's going to come down. And that is not their goal. So they choose not to go in those locations now. So that also means that people driving by don't see them and don't make the calls. So our goal is that we will get the graffiti down no matter where it is, regardless of how many calls we get, because it is still out there. And we will still continue to build the cases so that when we do catch the young people that are doing it, that we can make sure that they really learn the lesson that we don't tolerate it.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes,
just another comment too is one of the drawbacks of having a good program is that we become what they call a clean city.
Yeah.
And outside taggers know that, and they come in and tag in our city, and they get back on the freeway and go back to wherever they come from, Lancaster or Los Angeles or whatever. So that's one of the problems too. And one of the things I've noticed is that the tags are different. You know, we've done a good job in catching some of the kids in the community, and they're all been taken care of, but now we're starting to see some new different tags out there, and they're probably the kids from coming from other communities is doing it.
Great. Well, thank you for all that you're doing. It's really having a huge impact. Thank you. Okay, that moves us on to item number 2 of new business, which is our Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan. So this is very exciting to see this start coming to conclusion. Looking over our final plan for tonight and seeing whatever other comments or suggestions or revisions that the commission would like to have. So from there then that we can take a vote in terms of moving this forward to City Council for the evening. So with that in mind, we have Rick Gould, who will provide us with a presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the Commission, the plan before you is the final draft of the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan update. I'm not going to go into the detailed description of how we got to the product that you have in front of you. It's briefly detailed in the staff report. Most of you were involved for most of the process, and everybody had some point of contact with this master plan process over the last year or so. I would like to thank Elena and Tom, who've been our principal staff point of contacts, for the effort that it took to keep this, for the herding cats portion of this effort, working between the consultants, the staff, and the community, and keeping it moving forward. They really did have to collaborate quite a bit to get it to the point that it's at today. Most recently, as you know, the Commission held a study session in May where comments were made on some of the screen drafts that came forward. It's been gone through staff review where we looked for typos, and as we detailed in the memorandum that we sent to you about a week ago to give you a little extra time to read this, a few changes were made from our perspective. I don't believe any of them were terribly substantive. We believe the draft is in adequate form or presentable form to send forward to the City Council for their approval. It's currently scheduled for next Tuesday night, July 8th, for approval by the City Council. They also received their copy of the draft concurrent with your, when you got it, basically when it came out of the box, we sent it to all of you. So we're looking forward to your comments tonight. If there are any changes, we will incorporate them into the draft. If the council makes any changes next Tuesday night, we would incorporate those changes into the draft and then have the consultant produce the final copy and distribute it at such time that it gets all done, I guess is the way to say it. So we'd be interested in your comments tonight. If there are things you'd like to see addressed, we hope we've caught everything, and we look forward to taking it on your behalf to the council on Tuesday.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
I had a couple. And it's probably because I'm probably missed some things, but if you look on the pull-out on section exhibit number 2-2, 2.2-2, which is actually page 2-6, and taking a look at Longshore Park.
That's the fold-out?
That's the fold-out, yes. And if you go down to...
Let everybody get on the same page first.
Okay.
What, are you at 2-2? Is that what you said?
The exhibit number is 2.2-2. And the page is actually 2.
Go to section 2.
6.
2, okay.
Page 6. It's a fold out.
Oh, okay.
Okay, everybody there?
A little slow. Okay.
Okay. So what's your comment or your question?
My question is, we're looking at Todd Longshore Park, item number 17 on that page. And it looks, and if you look at that, it's marked as amphitheater. Now, I don't recall that, maybe we did have some discussion that the possibility in the future that we may be looking for an amphitheater at that location. Is that still a possibility, or is that?
There actually is an amphitheater at the site. As you leave the restroom and go down the main stairway to the large turf area, off to your right there is a small bowl. It's a small amphitheater that was designed for, you know, a small class, an elementary school or a high school class to sit on the hillside, and there's a concrete pad at the bottom where a teacher could make a presentation or do poetry readings or those. Yeah, it's relatively small. We had originally hoped in the master plan that it might have concrete seating and those types of things, but that was one of the casualties of the budget in the actual construction of the park. It's something we can always come back and address at a future date.
Okay, I didn't remember it, but I found that very curious. My next item is page 4-13. At the bottom of the page, recommended actions. And it says to continue to produce arts and cultural events that improve the quality of life for residents, such as the Cowboy Festival, concerts in the park. Are those cultural events? Are they? How do you classify those as being cultural events?
I'm not sure that we have a strict definition, Commissioner, but we look at concerts in the park as music, and it's a community event. Cowboy has always been considered a cultural event because of the poetry and music side of the festival. You know, if you remember that we've sort of changed the name for marketing purposes, but it really started as the Cowboy Poetry and Music Festival, the Fine Art Craft Fairs. And, you know, you could throw street art festival into that, but in general, you would make, I think we would make the distinction that the concerts in the park are a little bit different than the marathon.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't consider Cowboy as culture?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Come on, Ed.
Get with the program.
Yeah. Senior moment, I'm sorry.
It's just a different culture, that's all.
That's
It's
for
a
sure.
diverse culture.
Okay, all right, I'll accept that. I'll accept that. Okay, going on now, item 1-14, page 1-14. If you look at, this is the California Children's Outdoor Bill of Rights. Now, I remember this item coming to us, and I'm looking on the next page, which is 1-14, and some of the things we're looking for to make sure that we comply with that is the play on the team, follow a trail, catch a fish. All those things are available in the community or nearby the community, I know. But I'm looking at Celebrate Their Heritage again, and it says in Santa Clarita or nearby, there are many opportunities to experience the activities on the list. The city continues to explore new options for furthering its commitment. I'm looking for what items here that leads us to celebrate their heritage. Or is it just the heritage of the community or the heritage of the people?
I believe the intent here is to talk about the heritage of the community.
Okay. So not necessarily like the pioneer or the server on site, but the heritage that a multicultural community could be celebrating? Is that?
Certainly, we could do, I mean, I think it could refer to both.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think you know that before you in past years, the California Indians, some of the San Fernando Band of Indians has suggested opportunities for museums. I think the door is open for any of those types. If I'm not mistaken, the powwow this year is on the same weekend as the Street Art Festival.
Right.
So there are multiple opportunities to celebrate, you know, lots of things here in Santa Clarita.
Can we have that? Can we have that?
Yeah, we can clarify that.
Please. Yeah, I think that would be an indication that we are sensitive to the cultural heritage, not only of the cities, but also the community, or, you know, our diverse community. And I think my last comment would be, and I might be thinking more of a strategic plan than I am of a master plan, but is there an opportunity for us to go through this, Rick, and look at it and see if there's an action plan or some milestones to some of the recommendations that we have, or do we want to do that, or is it something that we'll just say, this is just our guiding document that just says these are things we want to look at sometime in the future? Do we want to put a time frame on some of these items or some of these recommendations or not?
I have a couple minutes to think about that.
You certainly can.
I think my initial reaction would be is I wouldn't suggest it at this time. I think my recommendation to you would be adopt the plan, and because it becomes the guiding document as we think forward. Because if you put a time frame on something and gas prices go up to $8 a gallon or whatever somebody chooses to predict in the newspaper tomorrow, money becomes tighter and you'll never meet the time frame. I think that is part of what we now have as we have a document that we can use in a future strategic planning effort on the part of the city or the valley, such as OVOV, to allow us to say, when you are thinking about doing this, this is a critical part of it, because the evidence says you need more of this.
Okay, so we don't want to nail ourselves to the wall and say this is what we're going to have done by a certain time then, right? Thanks very much. I appreciate it. That's it.
Try, though.
Yeah. Twist Rick's arm. Yeah. That's all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Santa Clarita is Southern California's entertainment destination. Just minutes from LA, Santa Clarita's year-round weather means you can enjoy year-round fun. Like thrilling coasters and water parks, premium shopping, destination day spas, fine dining, outdoor adventure, and major events such as wine festivals, golf tournaments, and the Cowboy Festival. Santa Clarita, always in season.